I've always wondered, if the answer is Kamala Harris, what is the question? What exactly are we being offered with this?
Name a talentless politician.
Well, are there less talented politicians than Kamala Harris? Possibly.
Her VP pick.
Yeah.
Well, she struggled even to. She didn't even get a chance to win over the affections of her own state, California, when she was running for that primary nomination in 2018, 2019, there or thereabouts. So badly did her campaign go. She's purely a DEI promotion, a DEI hire, as we all know, and we're seeing her lack of skills before us.
And the same thing applied in the 2020 primaries as well. She dropped out with 5%. Nobody liked her, and somehow she's got the entire structure of, I don't know what you call it, the vast Democrat machine. She's at the very top of this pyramid all of a sudden. And it's just one of those things where she's just continued to fail upward for her entire career. So you realize, okay, well, something else is happening here. I mean, if it wasn't obvious enough with Joe Biden, at least Joe Biden had a kind of plausible deniability. Well, he's a venerable elder statesman. He's got lots of support because he's been in the Senate or wherever it was for 30 plus years. He's been the vice president. He is at least a plausible candidate to be the mask of the machine. But Kamala Harris so clearly isn't. She's not competent. She obviously hasn't done this herself. Someone has done this for her. And so it was with great wonder that I saw this from The Atlantic for only the fifth time. Sounds like it's becoming a bit of a habit, doesn't it? I've happened to have only gone out and got blind drunk for the fifth time. It's not something that's only, but The Atlantic is endorsing a presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, because, quote, she believes in the freedom, equality and dignity of all Americans. Our editor's right. She won't abuse the power of the highest office in order to keep it. Why?
Hasn't she abused the power? Wokeness is all about abusing power.
Yes.
So,
and I mean, if there's like she didn't exactly run a sterling campaign for the Democratic nomination this time, did she? No, she was just didn't just decided upon.
Yeah, but I've decided I'm into some esoteric stuff.
Oh yeah,
and I see the esoteric message here. She's for the Fed. She said freedom, equality, and dignity. If you take the first letters, FED, it's for the Fed.
Yeah, I'd appreciate a bit of a numerological analysis of this as well, actually. I put absolutely zero stock in
787
arcane numerology, but it is funny to see people doing it. But what I particularly liked about this is, it's an empty chair.
Yeah, significant in itself.
It's very interesting, isn't it? But anyway, I thought we'd just have a quick look at this article because it's just preposterous.
Could I just say something very quickly about the endorsement itself? One of the virtues of Trump, there are fair few vices as well, it must be said. But one of the virtues of Trump is that he really did trigger the whole kind of nexus of media, cultural, and academic elites into having this sort of mask-off moment. The Atlantic in the early 2010s was sort of this kind of high-minded, sort of liberal with a small L.
Same as the sort of New York.
Exactly, the New York, exactly, and there's a reason why they've gone into overdrive like this, and so he really has made the media reveal themselves. I mean, I even remember watching in 2016. You sort of watched things like CNN, and there was a kind of patina that they were going to be balanced, whereas that pretense has been more or less dropped now.
Yes, the fancy font newspapers have all had to just simply come out and admit, we're actually left-wing partisans.
Yes.
It's not about being reasonable, and in fact, they make that abundantly clear in this. Because the first 5 paragraphs are them just complaining about Trump. We hate Trump, we hate Trump, we hate Trump, we hate Trump, and we're still going on about Trump. This year, Trump. It's like, were we talking about someone that you were endorsing?
These books where they say reasons to vote Democrat and they have nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, so essentially what the Democrats are going to do, reasons for voting Kamala Harris, and it's going to be a Jack Torrance authored book where it's going to say she's not Trump, she's not Trump, she's not Trump, endlessly.
That appears to be the core pillar of her campaign,
yeah.
Actually, as we can see from this. I mean, apparently Trump has been even more vicious and erratic than in the past. The ideas of his closest advisors are even more extreme. I don't know. I think Trump's a lot more moderate than he used to be.
Same.
He's a lot less pugnacious with the media, which is a shame because I personally enjoyed that because it was very entertaining. But he's pursuing a far-right agenda, as I've been reliably informed by the media. Project 2025 will cleanse America of its corruption in a fiery hellstorm that will leave no persons surviving. I mean, everything I've heard about Project 2025 has just sounded wonderful, and I'm totally for it. But anyway, as I said, the first 5 paragraphs are just whining about Trump. So that really sets the scene, because I always feel that if you have to project something purely in opposition to something else, then the thing itself can't be that important. Because otherwise you just tell me about the virtues of the thing that you're promoting. And that would, by corollary, become antagonistic to something else, but it would be centered in your own perspective.
And in their case, it probably would still be a little overdone. I mean, they made this positive case very strongly and would continue to do so if he was eligible for a third term with Obama, because he did have a certain razzmatazz about him. He was clearly intelligent, was fairly smooth, fairly suave, and you had all of these very, 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 as I say, slightly overly complimentary, obsequious pieces. But they can't do that at all here. It's pure bitterness and catastrophizing.
What would you say about Kamala?
Well, no, there's nothing to say.
I think that's a good point that both of you are raising, because I remember Machiavelli, who was saying that, the 2 prime motives of action are fear and hope. And when it comes to fear, this is obviously a piece that tries to induce fear in people. The question is, everyone does it. We could say everyone does it. But when it comes to the positive, when it comes to the articulation of a vision of hope, they have nothing. All they have is just empty words. Yeah, they'll say, Fed, freedom, equality, and dignity. But if you talk to them, they don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's also important that we don't attack the concept of fear mongering too much. It's a very left wing. It's a very left wing thing to do, isn't it? I mean, you're just fear mongering with your hate facts.
I mean, they will destroy the world if get elected.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it all hinges on whether the fears are well founded and whether the hopes are well founded. Yeah. So both need to be operative. But so that should be the main thrust of our case, not that they're fear mongering, but that they're fear mongering in the most demented, catastrophizing way possible.
But also in a way that just, I mean, normally when you're fear mongering, there has to be a ring of truth about it, right? As in, okay, well, that person, like Jeremy Corbyn, may well have tanked the economy. Entirely possible if John McDonnell becomes Chancellor of the Exchequer. I mean, things would be worse than they are now, and things are pretty bad now. So it's a plausible possibility. But when you have actually quite a glowing record of economic success, prosperity, world peace, and deepening diplomatic ties in different and difficult areas, the catastrophizing is a bit more difficult to pull off, isn't it? So everyone remembers what the price of petrol was, or the price of food was. Everyone remembers how, okay, the media was on fire complaining that Trump wasn't saying liberal things, but there weren't any new wars. There wasn't a disaster in Afghanistan where billions of dollars of military equipment made the Taliban like the 4th biggest military in the world or something like that. There are so many just things that Donald Trump didn't do and did do that it was only 4 years ago. It's not like it's out of living memory or something. It's not like it was a decade ago. It was only 4 years ago. And so I thought we would get to their positive statement on Kamala Harris, right? So they make their case in advance by just pointing out, hang on a second, we're a heterodox place, staffed by free thinkers, and whenever I hear the term free thinker, I just hear Nietzsche in the back of my head going, yeah, those free thinkers all think the same, don't they? It's the free spirits.
No. We believe in every possible shade of gay race communism at this
yeah.
at this publication. We really do.
There's no limit to the number of pronouns we're prepared to countenance. But that's again, whenever I hear free thinkers, Nietzsche is very much there going, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? They all think they are all free thinkers because they're all exactly the same. And so they say, well, I mean, for some of us, Kamala Harris is just too centrist. And for others, they're just too liberal. So you're exactly right. So what shade of gay race communism? And they literally just admit it. The process that led to her nomination was flawed. What was that process? Does anyone remember how she became nominated? Because I actually don't really know.
Yeah, I remember.
It's just one day, it turns out they're not having a primary, and Kamala Harris is the candidate, and there was just no debate on it. And no one on the left had any critiques of this. And those who did, people like Anna Kasparian, got defenstrated from the left and were told, no, you're a Nazi now because you wanted an open and transparent process to choose the candidate. So yeah, I mean, flawed is definitely one way of putting it.
Translation: high-profile Democrats knew that they were going to lose the election and didn't want to run.
You know what? That's definitely an interesting take on it. Now,
Yeah, remember, everyone was thinking that it was going to be Gavin Newsom because in the minds of Democrats, he's
a plausible candidate.
Yeah, he sort of seems like a plausible candidate.
Yeah,
I do think there's something to the idea that they were hoist by their own petard in that way as well, though, because like one of the edges that we really do have on the left today, if only we leaned into it a bit more, is that they are thoroughly anti-meritocratic as a matter of principle at this point, and that can redound to our advantage. We're accepting here that Gavin Newsom, on just purely meritocratic criteria, would be doing better than Kamala Harris, but the optics in their own ideological circles of a kind of smooth, tall, handsome, suave wasp supplanting this half Indian, half Jamaican woman who's a DEI promotion, and explicitly so, as Joe Biden said, it just would have been awful, and so that's something we should take more advantage of.
Yeah, the right is much more prepared to countenance disagreement as well. I've noticed there's a bizarre. I mean, like for example, Ron DeSantis was openly challenging Trump last time, and now he's just been folded back in. Everyone's like, oh no, he's still a decent chap, but it wasn't something that went without debate or conflict. Whereas on the left, everyone just fell into line. Right, okay, Kamala Harris has been
wonderful.
She's been ordained by the church of leftism, however it works in the Democrat Party, and I'm just a true believer, and I have to get in, and now I have to support her. And Tim Walz, who nobody knew until 5 minutes ago, but now he's brilliant, and we all love him, and we're all going to their rallies, because if we don't, the other side will point that out.
It reflects the way in which things I was talking about, the media acting in a more brazen fashion, and Trump has sort of lifted, exposed that. The Democrat Party machine is also acting in a more brazen fashion. I mean, it's one thing to rig a primary process, which many people would argue happened against Bernie Sanders in 2016, where lots of WikiLeaks emails suggested that Debbie Wasserman Schultz behind the scenes was maneuvering for a Hillary nomination. It's one thing not to have a process at all, and to have that in clear daylight.
I mean, I would respect them more if they just said, no, we're going to choose candidates based on a kind of executive model. Okay, well, that's not how I think it should be done, but I would at least respect the fact that you have a plan, but instead it's very cloak and dagger, behind the scenes, very shady, again, very kind of Wizard of Oz, frankly, like what's going on, who are these people? And, if you ask Elon Musk, he'll say they're part of an international noncing ring, who Epstein client list, but I'm not close to them. I don't know. Anyway, so the positive endorsement from the Atlantic comes about 7 paragraphs in, which is interesting because usually that you'd think that'd be front and center. But they say, quote, having devoted her life to public service, Harris respects the law and the Constitution. She believes in the freedom, equality, and dignity of all Americans. She's untainted by corruption. Untainted by an American politician, they're talking about, folks. Let alone a felony record or a history of sexual assault. She doesn't embarrass her compatriots with her language and behavior, doesn't she? Okay.
I mean, she is very spontaneous in her talk. I mean, she has the gifts of the orator.
She cackles like the Joker.
Yeah, and never changes accents.
We'll get to the accents in a minute. I particularly enjoy her accents. She's my favourite children's entertainer.
It turns out when your enemies are actually not weaponizing the justice system against you, you don't have a felony record.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Yeah. Right. What a strange coincidence.
Yes.
But I like the she respects law and order as well. It's like does she though? Because she took some executive actions to keep people in jail by. Didn't she deny evidence or deny the access of evidence to one of their cases and things?
Yes, as 10 candidates on death row, that was Tulsi Gabbard's main beef, wasn't it, in sort of 2019?
Because it seemed evil.
Yes, and she also promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund, euphemistically called, for Black Lives Matter rioters, and encouraged people to donate to it. I'm sure she's on board with all of these Soros-funded prosecutors as well, who think that a certain amount of enforced inequality is necessary to make unequal people equal, and trying to avoid disparate impact, and therefore selectively enforcing the law based on racial criteria as well.
Well, she says as much,
yeah, exactly,
whenever she's caught in a lucid moment. But anyway, she won't abuse the power of the highest office in order to keep it. She believes in democracy. These and not any specific policy positions are the reason the Atlantic is endorsing her. And that's interesting because the specific policy positions are something she's flip-flopped on quite a lot. She's taken lots of different positions on the border, on justice, on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Nothing about the 19th Amendment yet. But she's been, contradictory is a generous way of putting it. Totally inconsistent, utterly
all over the place.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways that aren't too condemnatory.
Begging the question,
yeah. And so I just came away from this going, right, you're doing it because you have to, right? Not because she's going to do anything good. No specific policy positions yet, because what is she even offering?
There aren't any.
Exactly. She seems, in fact, at the moment, to be stealing a lot of her policy suggestions from Trump himself. And so they end with this quote: "Trump is the Sphinx who stands in the way of America entering a more hopeful future. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx killed every traveller who failed to answer her riddle until Oedipus finally solved it, causing the monster's demise. The answer to Trump lies in every American's hands. Then he needs only to go away." I don't think that that's really how Americans generally feel. They don't look at Kamala Harris and go, hope.
Also, the person who defeated the Sphinx had a particular degenerate history in his...
Yeah. Do you really want America
practices.
to become Oedipus?
Yes.
Is that really what the Atlantic is asking for?
Just where's the respect for mothers and for motherhood?
And for fathers.
Yeah.
for non-incestuous relations.
Yeah.
Generally.
That's it. That was it.
So, right, yeah. Okay, anyway, so let's hope that the incestuous Democrat Party don't slay the Sphinx of Trump. But I thought we'd have a quick look at the endorsements of Kamala Harris, because, of course, she has a lot of endorsements. It's very, very interesting. So you've got federal executive officials, so, of course, Joe Biden, former Democrat presidents, Dick Cheney, which seems like something you'd want taken off there. Dick Cheney's endorsing you, say, well, don't tell anyone. Like Christ on a bike. Al Gore, the most correct predictor in all the world. The America's Cassandra, in fact, I would say, if we're going to use Greek metaphors. But then, obviously, loads of Democrats, cabinet members, blah, 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 right? So lots of...
What's that one? What's that is that called the intelligence community? If you go up, what is it?
There is the intelligence community. We can get to that. These are cabinet officials.
I see, cabinet officials.
Representatives, statewide officials, tribes and tribal leaders.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So
okay, reservations and all that sort of thing.
International politicians, blah, blah, newspapers and other publications. And again, it's just exactly what you'd think.
It's almost as if Curtis Yarvin himself has put together this Wikipedia entry in order to vindicate the existence of the cathedral. I mean, look at what are these if not the various different flying buttresses and pillars of what Yarvin calls the cathedral?
Very much so. And again, when it's international organizations in here somewhere.
Sadiq Khan.
Oh, yeah, of course Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
Of course Sadiq Khan. The General Secretary of NATO.
You know what happened that I found absolutely astonishing and weird? So somewhere in Wiltshire, outside the Dorothy Hospice, which is a place where they resell used furniture, they had a huge picture of Kamala Harris. So they also endorsed her.
Of course they do. But there was essentially what this is, and again, you can see down the list, it's essentially just a summary of the US deep state. Right, this is what we're being given here. And this goes all the way down to academics, newspapers, it's entertainers. Like, you can see everyone who is just on this side. I've never heard of half these actors and actresses, to be honest.
Yeah, who's George Clooney?
I didn't even see him on there. But there's, again, huge numbers. And so the question is, well, what are they exactly endorsing? And Kamala herself went on Stephen Colbert the other day and explained to us precisely what she's going to bring to the table.
Shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what.
Sorry, did you want to?
No, I just said that, I think that this goes without saying. But
I like the idea that I wish we could have seen the audience there when she said, obviously I'm not Joe Biden. I wonder if there was a kind of do we clap that?
Yeah.
Or are we not allowed? Oh, and then she says the Trump ones. Oh yeah, we definitely clap that.
I think she's
much simpler.
She's advocating for de-Bidenification. She's going to pull a Khrushchev and she's going to say Joe Biden was far right.
I mean,
that's what she's going to do.
He did put on the Trump cap, didn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe.
There's definitely some low-key sabotage going on there. He was very complimentary about Ron DeSantis the other day after she had called him out.
Yeah, it's very weird. But I mean, we'll listen to the rest of her answer just to see how vacuous it is.
This next generation of leadership looks like were I to be elected president. It is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity and in that way grow the strength of our nation. So for example, my economic policies, I think of it, and I've named it as creating an opportunity economy. So it's about things like investing in small businesses. I love our small businesses.
Right. So vacuous nonsense.
Yes.
It's just boilerplate.
Yeah, and the Trump, Trump has his moments where he kind of goes into kind of a rhetorical, and he definitely does. But firstly, he seems very authentic when he's doing it. Not necessarily honest, but very, very extremely authentic when he's doing it. But it is reinforced by certain details and policy proposals. And here,
pattern of behaviour.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So sorry, she goes, oh yes, well there are my sort of 10 platitudinous bullet points. But as for policy. And then she just gives another platitudinous bullet point about liking small businesses, as if that's controversial.
I also like the idea that she can be considered a change candidate. Yeah. She's the VP. Mm-hmm. She's currently a member of the government, the second most important person, presumably in America. That would be a continuity government.
But also
around it.
But also a candidate who says she respects the people's ambition. That's why she's going to tax everyone to oblivion.
Yeah. We need opportunity for wealth redistribution. But anyway, I personally would be supporting Kamala Harris were I a Democrat supporter. I, of course, support Trump. Honestly, because of her accents. Her accents are brilliant, and I don't think enough attention has been brought to them because she's just so great. So she gets, I think, Matt Walsh described this as an urban accent, but this sounded like a southern accent to me. It's hard to tell. Let's have a listen.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
So that's a nice twang there. But then you've got this particular one, which I enjoy.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better
Southern
thank
black
a
preacher.
Union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
I like Southern black preacher accents. They're great.
Yeah. Really
great. But then what about Latino accents? They're great.
I love you back.
I hadn't seen that one.
No. But she's just dropped a new accent, which is a Jamaican accent.
Well, did you know? I don't know if you've got this on the thing, but yesterday she was talking about COVID quite a bit with this kind of predominantly Latino audience. She was like saying COVID. She was saying it like that. But then someone got an image of her in 2020 saying it, and she's like COVID-19, or just speaking perfectly normally.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton did a bit of this as well.
But my favorite one, is just she's just dropped the Jamaican accent, which I love.
Have you no empathy, man? For the suffering of other people. Have you no sense of purpose?
More convincing than the Latina one, to be honest, because at least she's got Jamaican heritage, right?
Yes.
So you can at least argue
Have you no empathy, man?
But anyway, we'll leave that there because I don't really see much of a positive case for Kamala Harris, except as a children's entertainer, which may well be her next career move.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're doing, you can watch our series Lads Hour on the website, where we have lots of fun and talk about silly things. And if you want to see all the other things we're doing, you can always follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.